Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Sukriti Aduvanshi, and I'm back with another podcast episode on developers' stake in low code, how low code can be an empowering tool. So, low code application platforms emerged in the modern software development landscape as a response to the need of the hour to quickly churn out enterprise grade solutions with minimum hand coding. As CIOs work to build their technology stacks, it's not surprising that many are embracing the low code, no code platforms to maximize output within their organizations. Gartner estimates that by 2024, low code will account for more than 65% of application development activity. With digital transformation top of mind, the benefits of low code and no code often lie in the fact that you can empower citizen developers who have little to no development skills. But can developers benefit from low code and no code as well? To get some high level insights on this today, I'm in conversation with Junaid Deria, co-founder and MD at Drona HQ. Jinein heads the sales, finance, and operations at Drona HQ. He helms the evolving innovations of Drona HQ features and solutions to address enterprise customer needs. His key interest is to enable the intersection of technology innovation and commercializations of product. He is always keen to find solutions to address the dynamic needs of enterprise intersection of tech and commercialization. Welcome to the show, Jinein.
Thank you so much, Sukriti. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Jinein.
Maybe
Yes,
yeah, please.
it's a delight, for me to have you here on the show. And without any further ado, I will quickly, get on with the questions that I have. So to start with, tell me how low-code tools are used by app developers or front-end developers and full-stack developers.
Sure. So, Sukriti, I'll just give a quick background about me, and then I will step into this answer so that the audience will have a little bit of context to where I'm coming from, right? So, I've spent about last almost 17 years into application development space, right? I started my career in the application development. And then by 2007, I co-founded this company wherein we were basically doing enterprise tech, very specifically enterprise mobility for large enterprises, right? So we work with customers like Wipro, L&T Infotech, Kotak, and many more, right? Now in 2014 onwards, we basically stepped into, or rather I would say, our enterprise mobility evolved into rapid app development. And from 2018, rapid app development evolved into low code, no code application development, right? So that is how our journey has been so far. This is just to give you a context to where I'm coming from, right? Now, just to highlight, right, I'm just trying to rephrase your question, what are developer stakes in low code? So the idea is, I mean, if you look at at a holistic level, right, low code is not something which is new, right? There has been prior attempts made by, say, somebody like a Microsoft or an Apple, right, wherein a Microsoft came in with a Visual Studio, gave developers a sense of drag and drop, or probably for certain components, and it was a very back in the day, a very entry level sort of a thing that allowed customers or allowed developers to do things, build the UI thing a bit faster, and of course it wasn't really powerful enough at that point in time, right? So developers have had a flair of it. Maybe those were not the words, those were not the buzzwords which were in use back in the day, but the idea is in some form and shape developers have used it. So I don't think they would be so new to the concept about dragging and dropping and building things, right? Today, these tools have become extremely powerful. And as a result, you might be a front-end developer and you might want to use a tool like Drona HQ, for example, to build, maybe web and mobile applications in a 10x faster way, right? Or if you are looking at building, say, for example, automations, you might want to look at tools which allows you to do automations, achieve automations without writing a line of code. So there are tools which exist to solve a variety of things, and I think developers sooner or later would be I would say they would, once they get exposed to it, they would want to use it, because they are extremely, I would say, helpful tools, allows them to build things faster. And by the day, as we speak, they're becoming powerful to allow them to build variety of use cases with this.
Wonderful. Now, deep diving to the organizational perspective, Janine, tell me why and how CIOs and CGOs teams can set the framework for low-code development within the organizations, and where is the low-code? You seem to be the right fit. What kind of applications it is?
Sure. So if you categorize enterprise applications broadly, right, there are, you would categorize them into 2 or 3 different categories, right? One of them would be say a core business application, or say, let's assume you are an insurance player, and for you a core business application would be the underwriting application, right? Or if you are a bank, then core banking would be your core application. So the idea is, we call it as a core business application as category 1. Category 2 would be operational applications or internal applications meant for smoother functioning of your operations, right? Now, if I say, right, between the two, right, typically, like, the sweet spot for low code, no code applications have been typically, like, the internal tools and internal tooling aspect for customers, for internal customers, is how I would rather say. That seems like a natural fit, because we are still in a nascent stage. Low code, no code is just picking up, and you might want to start off with internal applications, test the waters, and then double click and see how you could, like, make it fit into the larger, maybe your core business applications as well. Because one of the big advantage that low code will bring on the table, the moment you achieve and the moment you adapt it internally, would be like, you'll soon see that the speed at which you are able to deliver things and the speed at which you are able to change things within your application is drastically different. And as a result, you would be tempted then to pick up the right use cases and then apply it in different other areas of business. But to begin with, if you are an organization, you haven't really done much on low code, no code yet, and I think sweet spot would be to get started with internal applications. And if in case you've already toyed around with the product and the tooling that you're using, right, and then the idea in that case would be to expand the horizons. There are different tools specializing in different things, right? So you'll be surprised, Sukriti, many a times I get this, like, from the customers, hey, you know what, we're already using UiPath. Why do we really need a new tool, right? And the logic is pretty simple. When you, let's take an analogy in a factory, you're using robots, for example. It doesn't mean that it can be widely applied to anything which needs a robot, right? I mean, you might be using it in a warehouse, but that doesn't mean, like, there might be robots which might do a better job at cleaning, and you might always would want to be open to look at, like, what other newer capabilities it can bring, right? So that is how I would rather, like, this is what I would advise. If you are new, go ahead, start with picking up an internal application. And if you've already explored some things and you are not able to expand it further into other use cases, then try new tools.
Wonderful. I think this was very helpful. Janine, getting on to the next one. What are the skill sets required for using low-code tools, and what kind of upskilling is required generally?
So it's a good question. So generally, like, we are assuming that a kind of audience would be developers. Okay. Now, developers generally come with a basic knowledge, or I would say a very heavy knowledge on how programs work, and how is the flow of applications, how is the flow of compute internally for a given application, right? So in that scenario, with that assumption, the kind of the developers that have come on board on our platform, they have been up to speed in probably in a week's time, That is from a timeline perspective, and what they really need to upskill on, what they really need to learn more. So most of the low code development tools, right? They will come with a basic set of things that they can, like, that they can do without coding, and then there will be advanced things in which they will have to write code and do things, right? So typically the place where they have to write code and do things, most of the, I mean, it depends on the tools that they would use. So for example, in our case, JavaScript is a typical language in which you would do it, and there is nothing new to be learned over here. Most of the developers who understand JavaScript can get functional on a tool like us when it comes to building advanced features in no time, because it's JavaScript at the end of the day, right? So, and then there are different tools. Some tools are like, using .NET, they're archaic in nature. Then there are, different tools will demand that they can do with, will need some different things that probably will need to be learned, right? So typically, it depends on a tool to tool basis, but every tool will give you, set of common things that you could do without writing a line of code. So that's, and then you go on to your advanced, complex applications, and that's where, depending on the tool, you got to learn.
Amazing. Okay, so there's a slight, I think, a stir, I should say, that the low code is only meant for large organizations. Help me, understand this. That is it only for large enterprises, or do SMBs and new age businesses, can benefit from it also?
So you'll be surprised, actually, today 80% of the users that we have are basically SMEs. So we count for more than 7,000 plus organizations who have used our tool, and worldwide there might be much exponential number than this, right? And 80% would be a general term. So the idea is it's not just meant for the large enterprises, right? There can be a variety of use cases. And now let's talk about internal tools for a moment. Let's assume you are say a 500 people organization, and you might be running things either on pen and paper, or you might be doing things on Excel. Imagine those things getting automated and getting completely digitized, right? Now, if you want to do it, is you go ahead and buy something ready off the shelf, subscribe to some SaaS, or or maybe the second option is to build things ground up. This is where low code really comes in very, very handy, because you do not really need to invest so much time to have a custom tailor-made application done for you, completely grounds up in a manual way. Versus with the low code, you'll find low code would be a clear winner, right, in terms of helping you do it faster and helping you do it more efficiently. So it's not just meant for large enterprises. And because these platforms like say ours, for example, is completely available on cloud, don't really need to add any infrastructure to it, and you would be able to get started in a snap of a finger.
Okay, so this is the last one that I have, Janine. Why low code now, and what difference do you see after the pandemic for low code? Give us a little future perspectives also.
Can you please come again? I think I missed it a bit.
Okay, so I'm asking why low code now? I mean, at this point in time, and what is the difference do you see after the pandemic for low code usage for everyone? Give us a little future perspectives also here.
Sure. So why low code now? I think the idea is very clear, right? You would want to do things faster. I mean, if you could go and reach from say Mumbai to New York in say 8 hours, right? And if there is an option available for you to reach in 4 hours, I mean, it's a no-brainer. What would you pick, right? Of course, looking at the budgets and other stuff. But the idea is it's always a better thing to do things faster, more efficiently. So low code has various advantages. A is an ability to, besides the ability to do things faster, they have applications built on low code are way more easy to maintain, right? and ability to change those applications is also like, I mean, they are extremely amazing when it comes to like, changing these the or adding newer functionality into your applications. So these are some of the reasons. And of course, apart from that, you get standardization of your output, because at the end of the day, imagine like, you spending manual hours, laborers hours to do, say, write an application A, and if you give the same application to 10 different developers, they will basically, all of the 10 will write it in different ways, right? And there can be smaller nuances in each of these applications, right? Let's say, take an example, like, if you have to write an input control or a text box, right? And on the text box, let's assume like, if you are designing it for a mobile device, you would want the keypad to come in with ABCD, and maybe if it is a number control or a number is what the text box is supposed to accept, in that case you would want a numeric keypad to come. Now imagine this, different developers, some of them may not even recognize this, and it will only come during the testing phase or the user experience phase that something like this would be corrected, right? But imagine on a low code platform, day one you get a completely standardized output, that if it is a number control, you will always get a numeric keypad opening on top of it. Smaller stuff, but it makes a lot of sense to standardize your applications, right? The entire user experience at some point and at some level, right? These efforts that you invest in low code today, because most of the low code platforms are hyper flexible, you can add your own new controls, you can add newer stuff into it, right? It will grow within the organization, right? And the faster you are at adapting this, right? And if there is a wide adoption within your developer community, within your organization, the chances are like, a lot of people are contributing on top of it, and that means work of person A can now be leveraged by another developer, say B, right? And that gives you way more power, because like reusability goes at least 3 times up, right, in that case. And as a result, again, your productivity increases significantly. You are not rewriting the same thing again. It can be simple stuff like establishing a connection with your core, say certain APIs, internal APIs. Now once it's done, it can be reusable across the organization. So power is humongous in that case, right? So these are some of the reasons why you should think about low code now, right? And trust me, because of pandemic, it necessitated the whole point of enabling people to work remotely, and it made an added pressure for organizations who were like probably who had the digitization goals meant for 2022 or 2021. Maybe they had to really like take it up and deliver it in like in before June of 2020, right? So to achieve things at scale and at that speed, low code was something like a lot of people resorted to, and I think it made a very I would say huge impact there. It helped a lot of people to achieve things today to do way faster, right? I can give you one specific instance in our case, right? We had one of the government organization, like a local organization, who wanted to, during the crisis of oxygen supplies, right? They wanted to create a tool to better communicate internally the logistics of where the oxygen should be to have the maximum impact, right, in a meaningful manner. And they teamed up with a partner of ours, and then they created the system, which was which was done in probably 3 weeks or 2 weeks, right? Imagine if that system was to be delivered, would like if it would have got delivered say after 6 weeks or 8 weeks, right? It might have not even like it might have lost the essence of building it fundamentally in the first place. So these are the things where it has like really helped even in the pandemic situation, maybe for the organizations or maybe solving critical problems, right? And then third point that you said about the futuristic part, right? I think overall if you track this, right, the amount of investments that are happening right now in low code is phenomenal, right? And as you quoted Gartner, point to be noted over here is like, it's growing. Low code as a thing is growing at around 30% CAGR, right? Which means the amount of investments happening both from the customers as well as private from the private investors at this point in time is huge, right? And if you see, probably this is the fastest category of services within SaaS. So you should expect that these the investments are only going to ensure that the products and the platforms which are available today are going to get even more mature tomorrow. They will be more empowering, and the idea is in an analogy to maybe a driverless car, right? This is like with time it's only going to get better, right? So that's how I would say it. And faster, you will be on it, it will be much better, because then you'll be able to reap the benefits, right? Learning it fast and then having an edge over your competition, because you are like delivering things 10x faster in that sense.
Thank you so much, Janine. Thank you for wonderfully taking us through the facts and reasoning out our queries on low code. I'm sure all the facts and learnings you've shared so far are definitely going to help our developer community. Especially the people who are trying their career in the low code domain, and giving us you've given us a real picture of how one can utilize the much talked about low code applications altogether. So thank you for
So
that.
thank you very much for for inviting me, Sukruti.
Thanks, Jinin, once again. Thank you everyone for listening to us. This is your host signing off. Please stay tuned for more. Thank you so much.